Got another question from Josh. Is it possible to use mom test for idea generation before a product or idea even exists, and especially when you're looking for a good problem to solve? And the answer is yes, definitely, although there are a few caveats and things to be careful of. So you need to restrict your search somehow. If you go in and you're talking to everybody about everything, it's too big of a possibility space, and it's really difficult to be creative inside of that. You end up talking to like the people who are easiest to find. So you end up talking to people like you. Like if you're in university, you talk to university students, and then you start thinking that like, oh, I should help university students find things to do on the weekend. And it's like a very generic and difficult to execute on idea. So I think it's better to make an intentional choice about your customer, who you'd like to serve. And then you can spend your time going after that person and trying to really understand them. And you can find their top pain points in their life. But what makes a good customer? Like, how do you make that first decision? For me, the three qualities that matter. One is that I care about them. It takes a long time to build a product in a business, and I find it really discouraging to be working for the benefit of customers who I'm cynical about. Like my first customer or first business was helping advertisers. I was like, man, I don't care about advertisers at all. So it looked good on paper. It looked like it was a big market and a cool product. But like ultimately for me, like I need to be serving customers who I actually like and respect and enjoy hanging out with. And that makes all your customer development a lot easier too, because it's easier to talk to people you like. So the first one's that you care. The second one's that they spend money. I really care about education. And I think that school teachers, for example, in America have a ton of huge problems, but they also have no budget. And so if you want to solve their problems, you need to be incredibly creative and sophisticated about where the money comes from. And so then you're not just serving school teachers directly, you're also dealing with parents or school administrators or like government subsidies. And it becomes like much more complex, which is fine, but it's much easier if it's a segment that just can spend money directly and is willing to do so to solve their problems. The last criteria for me, at least, is that there's some way to reach them. So some groups of customers spend a lot of time on self-education. So for example, marketing professionals spend a lot of time reading blog posts and articles about how to be a better marketer. The same is true with programmers and developers. They spend, a couple hours each day self-educating. And so because of that, blogging becomes a really effective way, or any sort of content marketing, to let them know that something new and cool exists. Whereas other segments spend 0% of their time self-educating. And it's much harder to reach those groups. How do you get in front of them? It's like, it's all paid media, or it's like weird partnerships. And again, it just increases the complexity of your model. And complexity isn't always bad, but it's complex. So you want to go into that intentionally. You want to make an intentional choice that you're willing to deal with a complex segment. And that can work out brilliantly. Like Stripe is the classic example. They sort of said, okay, payments is complex. There's a lot of regulation. There's banks, there's partnerships, there's all this stuff. Let's do it. Because if we conquer that regulation, it will become a moat. It will protect us against competitors. And they did a brilliant job. But you don't want to go into complexity accidentally. So all that informs. So like for me, when I'm picking a customer, it's like, do I care about that customer? Do they spend money? And do I have a way to reach them? And if not, like, am I willing to deal with that complexity? Once you've done that, you can kind of go to that type of customer and just be like, tell me everything about your life, like classic mom test. Tell me the worst parts. Help me understand your frustrations. What are your goals? What are the problems? Why isn't it already better for you? It's a really easy conversation to have because you can't do it wrong because you don't have a product to pitch. All you need to do is learn about their life and look for the places where they're frustrated. It's great. It's really easy. It's really fun. But there's a couple traps. One trap is a local maximum. Like you're serving some group of customers and you find out they have a big problem and you go, yes, this is it. And it looks great, but actually it's never going to be a big business or whatever. And not everything has to be a big business, but if you want to go the VC funded routes, like not all customer segments are capable of supporting a VC funded hypergrowth business. So if you want to go VC and if you want to go hypergrowth, like that's another factor in your customer selection. Is it a big enough market? Is there enough money? Can we grow fast enough, et cetera? So local maxima is one risk. And the other risk is that not all problems matter. There's like problems in air quotes where people will complain about, but they won't actually change their behavior or spend the money to fix it. A classic one is like being healthier. A lot of people will complain about like not having a six pack or like being tired all the time, but they still won't like get up and go to the gym. And businesses do this all the time. Businesses love to complain about email security. Businesses love to complain about worker satisfaction. Businesses love to complain about like going green, but they don't actually care enough to change anything about their behavior to improve those areas. And so you want to be careful that like if you're really focused in on like one customer looking for any problem, it's very possible to get distracted by an air quotes problem, like a fake problem that people complain about but won't actually fix. So those would be my two cautions. Like ensure that whatever you're discovering is still big enough to achieve your goals. Like my goals are small, so small problems are fine for me. But maybe you have big goals, and then you need to find big problems. And then the second one is like make sure that the problem actually matters. The classic sales question for this is, what are the implications of that? Someone goes, email security is a nightmare. Oh, what are the implications of that? How does that affect you? And then they go, we kind of just ignore it. Oh, like, isn't that a security risk? Yeah, but the data is actually not that sensitive. And you go, okay. So by asking for the implications, you push through the fake problems and you can figure out if the problems really matter. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I mean, honestly, like, there's no better time for like classic mom test pure discovery than when you're still picking an idea, because that's the highest leverage moment when you can still change everything. The more decisions you've made about what your idea and your product will be, the less powerful customer discovery becomes because it's not allowing you to make as many big picture decisions. So honestly, the earlier you can do it, the better.